The night was dark, and the sky over New Avalon glowed with electric blue flashes. A powerful ion storm had rolled in from the western sea. Rain fell like silver needles, and thunder echoed between the tall buildings of the megacity. The flying cars of the city slowed down, and some even stopped to wait out the storm. But not Kellen Drake. Kellen, a young delivery driver in his early 20s, was behind the wheel of his hover truck. He had short brown hair, sharp eyes, and a calm face that rarely showed fear. For Kellen, this was just another work night. He had a delivery to make, and storms didn't scare him. He had grown up in the outer zones, where storms were common, and help never came. He had learned to handle himself in danger. As his truck moved carefully across the skybridge over the canyon road, his scanner beeped. There was a traffic accident ahead. He slowed down, then saw something that made his heart race. A sleek silver executive cruiser was spinning out of control. Its engine flickered and sparks flew from one wing. It hit the side of the bridge, crashed through the safety rail, and started sliding toward the edge. Without thinking, Kellen pressed a switch. A magnetic grappler shot out from his truck, locking onto the cruiser's rear bumper. The sudden pull stopped the fall, but just barely. The cruiser now hung halfway off the bridge, shaking in the wind. Kellen jumped out of his truck and ran through the rain. The cruiser's windshield was cracked, and steam rose from the broken engine. He could see a woman inside unconscious, her head resting against the window. He pulled open the door with all his strength. It was jammed, but he didn't give up. "Hey, are you okay? Can you hear me?" he shouted, though she didn't answer. Finally, the door gave way with a loud crack. Kellen reached in and gently pulled her out. She was light, and her long black coat was soaked through. He could see now this wasn't just anyone. Her face was familiar. He had seen her on city screens before. It was Lyra Voss, CEO of Voss Dynamics, one of the most powerful companies in the galaxy. She looked so different now, silent, hurt, and human. Kellen carried her back to his truck, laying her carefully on the seat. Her eyes opened slowly. "What happened?" she whispered. "You were in a crash." "You're lucky I was nearby," Kellen said, trying to keep her calm. She blinked at him. "Who are you?" "I'm just a delivery guy," he replied, with a small smile. "But tonight I guess I'm your rescue team." Suddenly, flashing lights appeared in the sky. Emergency response drones and medical skimmers arrived, circling the area. A security team jumped out and rushed toward them. Kellen stepped back as they surrounded Lyra. He knew his job was done. One of the guards turned to him. "Did you touch her?" "She would have gone over the edge if I hadn't," Kellen said. Simply, Lyra looked up from the stretcher. Her voice was weak but clear. "He saved me. No one else was there." The guard paused, then gave Kellen a short nod. But no one thanked him. No one asked his name. Within minutes, the scene was cleared. The broken cruiser was pulled away, and the emergency team flew off, taking Lyra with them. Kellen stood alone on the bridge. Rain still fell. The only sound now was the low hum of his hover truck. He climbed back inside and started the engine. The truck shook but came alive. As he drove into the night, he didn't know that this one act of courage would change his life forever. The storm had passed, but the memory of that night stayed fresh in Lyra Voss's mind. It had been 3 days since the crash. She sat inside her private medical suite, high in the Voss Dynamics tower. Her body had a few bruises and a mild concussion. But she was healing quickly. The doctors said she was lucky. Very lucky, but Lyra didn't feel lucky. She felt confused and curious. She remembered the cold rain, the broken glass, and the fear of falling into the canyon. But above all, she remembered a voice, a calm, strong voice saying, "I'm just a delivery guy." "But tonight, I guess I'm your rescue team." Who was he? Her assistant, Merrill, walked in with a tablet. "We reviewed the security footage, Ms. Voss, The man who rescued you didn't leave any ID. He drove off before our team could question him. Lyra raised an eyebrow. No name? No, but we traced the truck's serial number. His name is Kellen Drake, 22 years old, works as a freelance delivery driver. Lives in the lower sector. Lyra looked out the window at the massive city below. The lower sector was full of factories, tiny homes, and busy streets. People there lived hard lives, very different from hers. I want to meet him, she said softly. Meryl looked surprised. Ms. Voss? He's just a driver. He saved my life, Lyra said. That makes him more than just anything. Meanwhile, in a small garage behind a repair shop, Kellen worked on his hover truck. The grappler arm was bent from the rescue, and one of the engines was still making a strange noise. He had been working nonstop for 2 days, trying to fix it. Without buying new parts. Parts were expensive. He didn't have the money. As he wiped grease from his hands, he heard a low hum outside. A sleek silver skimmer had parked near the shop. It looked out of place among the dusty buildings. The door opened. A woman stepped out, wearing a simple black coat and sunglasses. She didn't bring bodyguards. Kellen stared in shock. It was her. Ms. Voss? He asked. She smiled. I thought you might remember me. What are you doing here? I came to thank you. You saved my life, and I never even asked your name. Kellen looked awkward. It was nothing. Anyone would have done the same. No, they wouldn't, Lyra said. She stepped closer, looking at the broken truck behind him. You risked your life for a stranger. That matters. Kellen shrugged. I grew up in the outer zones. We help each other out when things go bad. You do what you can. She looked at him carefully. He seemed calm, honest, and a little shy. Not the kind of person used to praise. I wanted to offer you something, she said. Money, maybe a reward. No need, he interrupted. I'm not looking for anything. Lyra blinked. She wasn't used to being turned down. Then at least let me pay to fix your truck. That grappler saved my life. Kellen paused. His pride told him to say no again. But his eyes glanced at the broken engine behind him. All right, he said. Just the parts. I'll do the work myself, Lyra smiled. Deal. As she turned to leave, she looked back once. You're not like most people I meet. Neither are you, Kellen replied. She laughed softly. Then, without another word, she stepped into her skimmer and flew off into the city sky. Kellen stood there, watching the silver light fade into the clouds. Something about this meeting felt unfinished, as if it wasn't the end, but the beginning of something unexpected. 2 more days passed. Kellen thought life would return to normal after meeting Lyra. He went back to his delivery routes, working late and fixing his truck between jobs. But something had changed. People in the neighborhood started whispering, Is it true you saved Lyra Voss? She came to your garage herself? Man, you're famous now. Kellen just smiled and shook his head. I'm still the same guy. Just trying to pay rent. He didn't like attention. Fame didn't put food on the table. What mattered to him was hard work, honesty, and staying out of trouble. But trouble, or perhaps something else, was coming to find him again. That afternoon, a drone landed outside his building. It was small, silver, and smooth, marked with the Voss Dynamics logo. Kellen opened the message on its screen. You are invited to Voss Tower for a personal meeting. Date, today, time 6 p.m. Please wear something clean. Lyra, Kellen blinked. He looked down at his oil-stained shirt and dusty boots. He had never been inside Voss Tower, let alone invited. After a quick shower and a change into his best clothes, which still weren't very fancy, he made his way to the shuttle station. The ride to the upper levels of New Avalon was smooth and fast. Everything looked cleaner, brighter, and richer up there. The tower itself was enormous, made of shining black glass and glowing blue panels. Inside, the walls reflected soft light, and robots moved quietly through wide halls. A tall woman met him at the entrance. "Mr. Drake, please follow me." She led him through a private elevator to a high-floor dining room with a view of the entire city. Lyra was already there, dressed simply in a white blouse and dark trousers. She smiled as he walked in. "You came," she said. "Well, your drone was very convincing," he replied with a small grin. They sat across from each other as soft music played. A robotic server placed 2 plates of food on the table: grilled meat, steamed vegetables, and glowing fruit slices Kellen couldn't even name. He looked unsure. "This is more than just thank you, isn't it?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, I wanted to show my gratitude in person. And also, I wanted to know more about you." "Why?" Kellen asked, picking up a fork. "Because you didn't ask for anything. No reward, no attention. Most people in this city would have demanded millions or gone to the news. I'm not most people." "I noticed," she said. Smiling again, they talked while they ate, about work, about the city, and even about their childhoods. Kellen told her about his mother, who worked in a factory, and how he used to fix old bikes before he got into hover trucks. Lyra spoke about growing up in a world of business meetings and tight schedules, always being watched. "I never really had friends," she admitted. "Only people who wanted something from me." "You ever think about running away from it all?" Kellen asked. "Every day," she whispered. After dinner, she handed him a small card. "This is a VOS Dynamics repair voucher. Use it to upgrade your truck. Fully." Kellen hesitated. "This is a lot." "You earned it," Lyra said gently. He took the card and slid it into his pocket. "All right. But only if I can still fix it myself." "Of course," she said. "I wouldn't expect anything less." As the evening ended, Kellen stood to leave. "Thank you for the meal and the view." Lyra walked with him to the elevator. "Thank you for not letting me fall." Their eyes met for a quiet moment. No promises, no expectations. Just something beginning to grow. As the elevator doors closed, Kellen realized this meeting wasn't just about gratitude. It was something more. The sun was just beginning to rise over the metal rooftops of the lower sector when Kellen heard a loud beep from outside. He stepped out of his garage, rubbing oil from his hands, expecting a customer or maybe another drone delivery. But instead, a sleek silver skimmer hovered at the edge of the alley. And from the driver's seat stepped out none other than Lyra Voss. Kellen's eyes widened in surprise. She wasn't wearing her usual executive outfit. Instead, she had on a simple dark jacket and flat boots. No bodyguards, no flashing lights, just her and a soft smile. "Morning," she said, her voice calm. Kellen blinked. "What are you doing here? Isn't this a little out of your comfort zone?" Lyra looked around at the narrow streets and old buildings. "Maybe, but I wanted to see where you actually live. Where you work." Kellen leaned against the doorway of his garage. "And you came alone?" She nodded. "Sometimes it's nice to disappear from my world for a while." He studied her for a moment. She didn't seem like the powerful CEO, right? Now she looked more human, tired, maybe even a little lost. "Want some tea?" he asked. Lyra smiled. "Only if it's not served by a robot." Inside the garage, things were small but neat. A simple table, a few chairs, shelves with tools and parts, and the half-fixed hover truck in the center. Kellen poured them both a cup of tea and handed her one. "You really do fix everything yourself," Lyra said, looking at the engine in pieces. Kellen nodded. "Yeah, grew up building things with my hands. Never liked relying on machines too much." She sipped her tea. "That's rare in this city. Most people don't even know how their home works, let alone fix a hover engine." Kellen smiled. "And most CEOs don't show up unannounced to visit delivery drivers." Lyra laughed. Touché. They sat for a while just talking. There was no tension, no pressure. Just two people from very different worlds, sharing quiet time in a dusty garage. Kellen finally asked, "Why are you really here, Lyra?" She paused, looking down at her cup. "Because I feel different when I'm around you. When I'm in that tower, people treat me like a machine. They only talk about numbers, profits, meetings. But you talk like I'm just a person." "You are just a person," Kellen said softly. "You just wear a shinier jacket than most." She looked at him with gentle eyes. "You don't see me as a company or a brand. You didn't try to impress me. That's rare. I don't think I'm the type that impresses people anyway." "You'd be surprised," she whispered. Just then, Kellen's cum device beeped. A delivery request had come in urgent and across town. He looked at her apologetically. "I have to go." Lyra stood up. "Then I'll come with you." Kellen blinked. "Seriously? You want a ride in that?" She smiled, nodding toward his half-repaired truck. "Why not? I've never been in a real delivery truck before." "All right," he said, shaking his head with a grin. "But don't blame me if your coat gets dirty." They climbed into the truck. It rumbled to life and rose slowly above the street. As they flew over the lower sector, Lyra looked out the window in wonder. "It's beautiful down here." "In its own way." Kellen glanced at her. "Told you. Not everything valuable shines." And for the first time in a long while, Lyra Vos felt like she wasn't pretending. Not a CEO, not a leader, just a woman sitting next to someone who saw her for who she truly was, and it felt real. That night, the city of New Avalon shimmered with light. Thousands of flying vehicles painted bright trails across the sky. From above, the city looked perfect, a glowing map of order and power. Kellen Drake stood in front of the Skybridge Tower, looking up. He wore the cleanest clothes. He owned a plain black shirt, dark jeans, and a nervous smile. He had received another message from Lyra. "Dinner, my treat, no robots, no guards, just the two of us. Meet me at Skybridge, 7 p.m. Kellen had never been inside Skybridge before. It was a floating restaurant, shaped like a circle, with a glass floor and rotating views of the entire city. Only the wealthiest people ever dined there. And now, somehow, he was one of them. A soft chime greeted him at the entrance, and a polite host guided him into an elevator that rose quietly through the clouds. As the doors opened, soft music played, and warm lights glowed above elegant tables. Then he saw her. Lyra stood near the glass wall, wearing a midnight blue dress that shimmered like stars. Her hair was tied back, and her face lit up when she saw him. "You made it," she said. "I almost turned around twice," Kellen admitted. "Didn't think they'd let a delivery guy into a place like this. They let you in because I invited you." She smiled. "And because you belong here more than most." They sat down near the edge of the floor, where the view showed the whole city lights, towers, flying ships, and glowing signs. "You ever think this city is too much?" Kellen asked, looking out. "All the time," Lyra replied. "It moves fast. Everyone's always chasing something. Power, money, control. And you?" he asked. "I used to chase control," she admitted. "Then I met someone who reminded me there's more to life." Kellen looked at her. "You mean me?" Lyra nodded, her voice soft. "You didn't try to impress me. You didn't lie, you just helped. And every time we talk, I feel lighter." Their food arrived, not brought by drones, but by a smiling human waiter. The dishes were beautiful and strange, filled with soft glowing fruits and steamed golden vegetables. Kellen tried a bite and raised his eyebrows. "Okay, this is good," Lyra laughed. "I thought I might surprise you." "You did." They ate and talked. Not about work, not about business, just simple things, favorite songs, childhood dreams, funny memories. Kellen told her about the time he built a bike from spare hover parts and accidentally made it fly into a tree. Lyra laughed so hard she covered her face. "I haven't laughed like this in years," she said. "Then I must be doing something right," Kellen replied as the restaurant slowly turned. They found themselves facing the dark hills beyond the city. There, the stars were clearer, brighter. "I like this view," Lyra said. "It feels real, not like the city." "Yeah," Kellen agreed. "Out there, the stars don't care who you are." They grew quiet for a moment. The music played softly around them. Then Lyra reached across the table and touched his hand. "Kellen, I don't know what this is between us, but I want to find out." He looked into her eyes. "So do I. No promises. No pressure. Just honesty." Outside the glass, the stars shone brighter than the city lights. And inside, two very different souls found something rare: peace, and the beginning of something beautiful. The next morning, news spread across New Avalon like fire. Every holoscreen, news drone, and gossip network showed the same picture: Lyra Voss and Kellen Drake, laughing together at Skybridge, sitting close, smiling under the stars. It was supposed to be a private dinner, but someone had taken secret photos and leaked them to the media. CEO Lyra Voss, seen with delivery driver. Romance or risk? Powerful woman, ordinary man, city in shock. What is Voss Dynamics hiding? Within hours, social media exploded. Some people cheered for her boldness, calling the moment romantic and real. Others, especially business leaders and rivals, whispered behind closed doors. One of them was Darren Cray, the head of Orion Corp, Voss Dynamics' largest competitor. Inside his office, Darren smirked while watching the news. "She's losing control," he said to his assistant. "This is our chance." He ordered his team to spread more rumor stories about poor leadership, lost focus, and distractions. His plan was simple: make Lyra look weak so her investors would panic, and open the door for a corporate attack. Back at the garage, Kellen was working on his truck when a group of strangers appeared outside. 3 well-dressed men in black suits. "You're Kellen Drake?" the first man asked. "Who's asking?" Kellen replied, wiping his hands. "We're from the Business Regulation Council. We've received complaints. Unregistered upgrades, unpaid taxes, possible connections with." Kellen narrowed his eyes. "You're not here about taxes. Someone sent you." The men didn't answer. They handed him a warning notice and left. Kellen knew what was happening. Someone wanted him to back off, to disappear. Later that evening, his comlink buzzed. It was Lyra. "Kellen," she said, her voice serious. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," he said. "But I got a surprise visit today. I'm so sorry. I never thought they'd target you." "Why are they doing this?" he asked. "Because I broke their rules," she said. "In their world, CEOs don't fall for mechanics. It threatens their control." Kellen was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Maybe we should stop this. You have a company to protect." Her voice dropped. "Do you really want to stop?" He took a deep breath. "No, but I don't want you to lose everything because of me." Lyra paused, then said firmly, "If they think I'll abandon someone brave and honest just to protect a company, then they don't know me at all." The next day, Lyra called a press conference. She stood before hundreds of reporters, lights flashing and microphones pointed toward her. She wore no jewelry, no flashy clothes, just a plain black suit and clear eyes. "I know many of you have questions," she began. "Yes, the man in the photos is Kellen Drake. He's a delivery driver. He's also the man who saved my life during the ion storm." She paused, letting the silence grow. "Some people think his job makes him unworthy of my time. I disagree. He showed more courage, honesty, and strength than most people I've met in boardrooms." Whispers filled the room. "I will not apologize for who I choose to spend my time with. And I won't allow lies and fear to guide this company." With that, she stepped away from the podium. The media buzzed with mixed reactions. Some called her speech bold. Others said it was dangerous. But Kellen, watching from his garage, smiled quietly. She had stood up for him, and no matter what came next, he knew something for sure. This wasn't just kindness. This was real. The sky above New Avalon was quiet, but trouble was building far beyond the city walls. In a remote desert zone, one of Voss Dynamics' most important terraforming stations had suddenly gone offline. The power grid collapsed, oxygen levels dropped, and the machines responsible for turning dry land into green fields had completely stopped working. Lyra stood in the command room, staring at the red warning lights on the screen. "This can't be a system error," she said. "It was working perfectly last week." Her chief engineer nodded. "We think it was sabotage. Someone accessed the core remotely and triggered an overload." "Orion Corp," Lyra whispered. "They're going too far." The outer station was too far for drones to reach quickly. A manual reset was the only way to save it, and the hundreds of workers living nearby. If the system didn't restart in the next 24 hours, the habitat domes would lose air and people could die. "I'll go myself," Lyra said. The room went silent. "But ma'am, it's dangerous," the engineer warned. "You're the CEO. Let someone else handle it." Lyra shook her head. "This isn't just about machines. It's about responsibility." Before anyone could argue, she tapped her cum and made a call. Kellen had just finished a long delivery route when he got her message. "I need you. It's urgent. Can you meet me in 1 hour?" He didn't hesitate. 1 hour later, they stood at the edge of the city, in front of an armored rover built for harsh terrain. Kellen wore a utility jacket and gloves. Lyra wore a strong desert coat and serious eyes. "What's going on?" he asked. She explained everything: the sabotage, the danger, and the need to reset the station manually. "And you want me with you?" he asked. "I trust you," she replied. "You know the wastelands." "I don't." Kellen looked at her, then at the desert stretching far into the horizon. "All right, let's do it." The journey was rough. The desert wind howled across the dry land, throwing dust and heat against the rover's windows. The road was rocky, broken, and hard to follow. But Kellen knew these lands. He had delivered to outer zones before, and he remembered every shortcut, every safe path. Inside the rover, the two sat in silence for a while, focusing on the map. Then Lyra spoke. "You didn't have to come, you know." "I wanted to," Kellen said. "Not just for the station. For you." She looked at him, surprised. He continued, "You stood up for me in front of the world. Now it's my turn to stand with you." For the first time that day, Lyra smiled. By evening, they reached the broken station. It stood in the middle of the desert, surrounded by dust and silence. The main tower was dark, and warning lights blinked slowly. They climbed inside, moving through narrow corridors. The air was thin but still breathable. "This way," Lyra said, leading him toward the control core. Suddenly, a panel sparked above them, and a ceiling beam collapsed. Kellen pulled Lyra back just in time. "You okay?" he asked, holding her. "Close," she nodded, her heart racing. "That was close." Finally, they reached the core room. The reset panel was damaged, and wires hung loosely. "I can fix this," Kellen said. "But I need time." Lyra stood guard while Kellen worked. His hands moved quickly, steady and focused. Sparks flew, and warning alarms beeped, but he kept going. After 30 minutes, he connected the last wire. "Try it now," he called. Lyra pressed the button. The lights flickered, then turned green. Systems rebooted. Power surged through the station. Outside, the machines began humming again, and oxygen levels started to rise. Kellen stood, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We did it." Lyra looked at him, proud and relieved. "You did it." "No," Kellen replied. "We did it." And in that dusty, broken room, surrounded by sparks and silence. They shared a quiet look stronger than words. This was more than just teamwork. It was trust. It was something real. The desert sky slowly turned golden as the sun began to rise. Warm light touched the edge of the broken towers and dusty roads. The terraforming station was working again. Air filters buzzed, lights glowed, and the greenhouses inside the habitat. Domes slowly began to come back to life. Lyra stood on the rooftop of the station, looking out across the wide, open land. She felt the wind on her face. It wasn't as soft as city air, but it was real natural, untouched. For a moment, she felt free. Behind her, Cullen walked up with 2 steaming cups of instant tea. He handed one to her with a small smile. "Not as fancy as Skybridge," he said, "but still warm." She took the cup and laughed quietly. "It's perfect." They stood in silence for a while, sipping tea as the sun climbed higher. The sky was clear, with no signs of city lights or screens. "Just sky, sand, and peace. You know," Cullen said, "this place is strange. Empty, quiet, but I like it." Lyra looked at him. "I do too. Maybe because out here, everything feels honest." He nodded. "Back in the city, everything is too polished, too planned." She turned to face him. "I didn't know what I was missing until I met you." Cullen looked surprised, but said nothing. He just watched her with calm, steady eyes. "I've spent so many years being someone people expect me to be," she continued. "Always perfect, always strong, always busy. But around you, I can just be Lyra. You've always been Lyra." Cullen said softly, "You just forgot for a while." His words touched her heart. She stepped closer to him. "You've changed my world, Cullen. Not just by saving me, not just by helping here, but by being you." He looked down, trying to find the right words. "I didn't expect any of this. I didn't expect you." "I didn't expect you either," she whispered. There was a pause. Then Lyra took his hand gently. "I don't care what people say. I don't care what the media thinks. I care about this, us." Cullen squeezed her hand lightly. "Same. Here, whatever this is, it feels right." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver ring. Not fancy, not expensive, but simple and shining. "I made this from a piece of scrap metal at the garage," he said with a nervous smile. "It's not a gift or anything serious. I thought it would remind you of this moment." Lyra looked at the ring, her eyes soft. She took it and slid it onto her finger. "It's beautiful," she said. "And it's more special than anything I've ever worn." For a moment, the desert wind blew softly around them. The sun warmed their skin. It felt like time had slowed down, just for them. Then a message pinged on Lyra's wrist communicator. She checked it and sighed. "We need to return to the city. The board is calling an emergency meeting." "About us?" Cullen asked. "Probably." She said, "They'll try to tell me what I can and can't do again." Cullen looked at her seriously. "So what will you tell them?" She smiled. "I'll tell them the truth. That I've found someone who reminds me what life is really about. And if they don't like it, they can find a new CEO." Cullen laughed. "That'll shake them up." "Good," she replied. "Sometimes the world needs to be shaken." They climbed into the rover and began the journey back to the city. But something had changed. Their bond was no longer quiet or hidden. It was clear now that it was strong, true, and unbreakable. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and that was enough. 2 weeks had passed since the mission in the desert. News about Lyra and Cullen had spread across the city and beyond. Some people were still surprised. Some were still talking. But many had moved on. The city always found something new to talk about. Inside the main hall of Vos Dynamics, bright lights shone down on a large crowd. Journalists, engineers, company staff, and government leaders all waited for a big announcement. At the front of the stage, Lyra Voss stood tall and calm. wearing a silver suit that reflected the light like moonlight on water. Beside her stood Kellen Drake, dressed simply, but confident. Lyra stepped up to the microphone. "Today is not just about business," she began. "It's about a future we all believe in. We're proud to launch the Aurora Project, our most advanced terraforming mission yet. A chance to bring life to the empty worlds waiting beyond our system." People clapped and cameras flashed. "But this is also a personal day for me," Lyra continued, "because this project was inspired by someone who reminded me what real strength looks like, not in titles or money, but in heart, honesty, and courage." She looked at Kellen, who gave her a quiet smile. "This man beside me," she said, "saved my life, not just on a road during a storm, but in a much deeper way. He reminded me of who I truly am. And today, I am not just proud to lead this company. I am proud to stand beside him." The room filled with claps again, but this time they felt warmer. More honest. Later, after the event, Lyra and Kellen stood on the rooftop of the tower, watching the stars above. The city lights below were glowing, but the sky above was peaceful and still. "You did well," Kellen said, holding her hand. "So did you," Lyra replied. They stood silently for a while. Looking up, "Do you think people like us can really change things?" Kellen asked. Lyra looked at him. "We already have. Look around. A few months ago, no one would have believed this was possible. But now they see it's real. Not just a story," he said. "Not a show. No," she nodded. "This is life." Kellen took a small device from his jacket and pressed a button. A glowing hologram appeared in the air, a tiny model of a green world, filled with rivers and trees. "This is the planet the Aurora team will work on," he said. "I helped design the field layout last night." Lyra looked at him proudly. "You're not just a delivery guy anymore." "I'll always be that," he smiled. "But now, I deliver something bigger." They both laughed as they looked out toward the stars. Lyra said softly, "You know, we still have a long road ahead. Challenges. People who won't understand us." "I'm not afraid," Kellen replied, "because I'm not walking alone." She squeezed his hand. "Neither am I." Then, without any crowd, without lights or cameras, they leaned in and shared a quiet kiss, one full of meaning, built from moments, struggle, and truth. No promises were needed. No grand speeches, just the sky, the stars, and the steady beat of something real between them. Their story had begun with a crash, a storm, and a simple act of courage. Now it continued with hope, love, and a shared dream to build something better, not just on Earth, but across the stars, together.